What you need to know about coronavirus on Saturday, April 11th. A version of this story appeared in the April 11 edition of CNN's Coronavirus Fact vs. Fiction newsletter. Sign up here to receive the need-to-know headlines every weekday. 500,000 Americans have been diagnosed with the novel coronavirus. The grim statistic means that almost 1 in 3 cases worldwide is found in the United States. New York State alone has more cases than any other country except the U.S. As the country recorded the biggest single-day jump in COVID-19 deaths, President Donald Trump announced he will create an opening our country task force. But as health experts study China and other countries that are starting to lift some of the harshest restrictions, they warned that opening the U.S. should not be rushed. Earlier this week, China started allowing healthy people to leave Wuhan, where the outbreak emerged in December. In Europe, several countries are now cautiously following in China's footsteps, Laura Smith-Spark writes. Though mass gatherings and international travel remain largely off-limits, some shops, outdoor exercise centers and schools are beginning to reopen in some countries, including the Czech Republic, Austria, Denmark and Norway. Experts say the countries preparing to ease restrictions have something in common. They were among the first in Europe to implement harsh restrictions and quickly ramp up coronavirus testing. You asked. We answered Q. Does smoking weed increase the risk of COVID-19? A. If you're smoking cannabis to ease your stress during the pandemic, experts say it's time to think twice. Smoking marijuana, even occasionally, can increase your risk of more severe complications from COVID-19. Smokers, people with chronic lung diseases, and those with moderate to severe asthma are among those at high risk for severe illness. More than 50,000 people have asked us questions about the outbreak. Send yours here. Are you a healthcare worker fighting COVID-19? Message us on WhatsApp about the challenges you're facing. +1 34732204415. What's important today? Minorities hit hard by the coronavirus. Tributes have flooded in for health workers across the United Kingdom who have reportedly died from coronavirus-related complications, many of them from Black and Asian communities. The country's health minister, Matt Hancock, told the BBC Today he was struck at the high proportion of people from minority ethnic backgrounds and people who have come to this country to work in the National Health Service who have died of coronavirus. British health authorities have not released race-related statistics on confirmed cases or fatalities, but questions are mounting about the epidemic's disproportionate effect on minority groups, Tara John and Alicia Kellock report. Early data from the U.S. shows that African Americans have died of coronavirus at alarming rates. They represent a high percentage of victims in Louisiana, Illinois, Michigan and New Jersey. South Korea warns it will track quarantine violators. South Korea has issued an alert to its citizens. If you break quarantine rules, you will have to wear a tracking bracelet. The public is on board. The government says more than 80% of respondents supported the use of electronic bracelets. South Korea has emerged as a coronavirus success story. It moved quickly to develop a testing strategy, and those who tested positive were swiftly isolated. The country, with 51 million residents, has recorded some 10,000 cases and only 208 deaths. Global food supply at risk. The United Nations warns that global restrictions to fight the coronavirus are straining food supply chains, Jesse Yoon writes. Border closures, movement restrictions, and disruptions in the shipping and aviation industries have made it harder to produce food and transport goods internationally, potentially jeopardizing countries with few alternative food sources. A boy from remote tribe dies of the virus. A teenager from an isolated Amazonian tribe in Brazil has died from COVID-19. The boy, a Yanomami from the village of Rehebe near the Venezuelan border, became the third indigenous person in Brazil to die from the epidemic. The Yanomami people live in the remote rainforests and mountains of northern Brazil, and advocates say the virus spread among them through miners who had entered their territory illegally. The number of coronavirus-related deaths in Brazil has almost tripled in a week. But President Jair Bolsonaro continues to push back against lockdown measures, dismissing coronavirus as a little flu and saying Brazil will suffer more if the economy collapses. On our radar. Healthcare workers covered in personal protective equipment are wearing smiling photos of themselves to put coronavirus patients at ease. Some are even dancing on social media to relieve stress and cheer up the quarantine. If you ever wanted to go to Burning Man but were worried about the practicalities of camping out in a desert with 80,000 other people, here is your chance. The festival is going virtual this year. NASA astronauts Jessica Meir and Andrew Morgan are about to return to a very different Earth than the one they left months ago. As they say goodbye to the International Space Station, they have some advice for people living under quarantine. Stick to a routine and be a good crewmate. An anonymous donor gave everyone in Earlham, Iowa $150 worth of gift cards for food. The community said it received something more valuable than money: hope. Top tips: online stores are stretched to their limits, and it's their workers who are feeling the burn. Here is a guide to being a more ethical shopper during this pandemic. Being stuck at home doesn't have to be a dull experience. Here are all the virtual concerts, plays, museums and other cultural events you can enjoy from home. If you've been having bizarre dreams during the pandemic, you're not alone. These cryptic responses are normal, say experts. Click subscribe to receive the latest news.